Welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about something that might seem pretty simple at first, but as always, we like to take these kind of deceptively simple topics and really kind of dig into them a bit.
Unpack them.
Unpack them and see what kind of interesting things we can find.
Yeah, and sometimes, the most obvious stuff we overlook. And so when you really start to think about it, you're like, oh, wow, there's a lot more here than I thought.
Yeah, today's topic, it's something that I guarantee all of our listeners have encountered before. It's the weather.
Right. Like we can't avoid it.
Cannot avoid it. And, it might seem like just kind of that classic small talk material, but there's so much more to it.
So much more.
Especially when you're talking about speaking English fluently and really sounding like a natural speaker.
And like you said, it's like the ultimate small talk go-to. Like you can talk about the weather with anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. It's something that everyone experiences no matter where you are in the world. What language you speak, it's a universal topic.
It's a shared experience,
Yeah.
right? We all kind of look up at the sky and think like, what is going on up there?
Exactly. And being able to talk about it comfortably and, with a good range of vocabulary and expressions can really make a difference.
Huge difference.
In how confident and natural you sound in English. So for this deep dive, we turn to a really cool resource that's all about those practical English skills.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff in there.
A lot of good stuff for everyday situations. And, we thought we'd share some of the key insights and tips that we found in there with you all.
Perfect.
And speaking of weather, I got to tell you, it was a proper adventure getting here today. It was like downpour.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking puddles that were more like small lakes. I was like wading through the streets.
Wow.
Yeah, it was something else.
That's funny you say that because where I am, it's beautiful blue skies, but crazy windy.
Oh, yeah.
Like that wind where you can't control your hair.
Or like your hat's going to fly off.
Yeah, the kind that almost knocks you over.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that right there is like the perfect example, right? Because we're in different locations experiencing totally different weather.
Right.
But we can connect over it. We can share those experiences. And that's what makes this topic so useful.
I love that. Okay, so let's give our listeners some must-know weather words.
Yes.
That they can really start to use.
All right. So kicking things off, we've got 10 of these kind of essential weather vocabulary words. And first up,
Okay.
we have drizzle. D-R-I-Z-Z-L-E. And this one refers to, that light rain, that kind of fine mist.
Yeah.
You might hear someone say, oh, it's not raining heavily. Just a bit of drizzle.
Just a bit.
Just a bit, exactly.
Okay, drizzle. Got it. What's next?
All right, next up, we've got the opposite of drizzle, which is downpour. D-O-W-N-P-O-U-R.
Okay.
And this is that heavy, intense rain, the kind that, sends everyone running for cover. Yeah, you need more than an umbrella.
Yeah, you need maybe a boat.
Yeah, you need a boat. Yeah, just like what you had going on this morning.
Exactly. So, a good example of how you might use this is there was a sudden downpour and everyone ran for cover.
Makes sense. Okay, what else we got?
Okay. Next on the list is humid, H-U-M-I-D. And this describes that air that's hot and moist, the kind that, you often find in those tropical climates.
Right.
You might say, oh, it's so humid today, I feel like I'm melting.
Yeah.
That kind of feeling.
Okay, I like that one. Melting.
Melting, yeah.
Yeah, you feel it. Okay.
And then sticking with that kind of theme, we have muggy, M-U-G-G-Y.
Okay.
Now, this one's interesting because both humid and muggy describe air with a lot of moisture.
Yeah.
But muggy really emphasizes that uncomfortable, sticky feeling.
Takes that next level.
That next level, yeah. So you might say, it's really muggy today. Feels like a storm's coming.
Yeah.
So, again, both words kind of tell us there's a lot of moisture in the air, but muggy really highlights that unpleasant, heavy feeling.
Yeah, I think that distinction is super helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered rain. We've covered the, moisture in the air.
Yes.
What about wind?
All right, let's talk wind. So we've got breeze, B-R-E-E-Z. This is that light, gentle wind, often quite pleasant, often welcome.
Yeah, that nice cool down.
Yeah, it's refreshing. You could say there's a nice breeze today. It keeps things cool.
Yeah, I like that one.
But then when that wind picks up and gets really strong,
Right.
we call that a gale, G-A-L-E.
Okay.
And this is a very powerful wind, the kind that can cause some damage.
Yeah, things are blowing around.
Yeah. For example, you might say, The gale last night knocked over our garden chair.
Yeah, you don't want to be caught in a gale.
Not really, no.
Okay, so we've got breeze, we've got gale. I'm sensing a theme here with the, like, opposites.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
we've got some contrasting pairs going on here.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so moving on to some colder weather conditions.
All right.
We have frosty, Frosty, and this describes, those really cold conditions where you start to get ice crystals forming on surfaces.
Right, yeah, you see your breath.
Yeah. And, it's important to be careful, especially when driving in those conditions. So you might hear, be careful driving the roads, or frosty.
Good advice, good advice.
Yeah. Then we have overcast, Overcast.
Okay.
And this simply means the sky is covered in clouds, making it look kind of gray and dull.
Gloomy.
Gloomy, exactly. You might say, it's completely overcast today, feels kind of gloomy.
Yeah, I think we all know that feeling.
We do. All right, bringing up the heat now, we have scorching, Scorching.
Okay.
And as you can probably guess, this means extremely hot, like really, really hot. It's scorching outside. Don't forget sunscreen.
Good reminder. Sunscreen's important.
Very important, very important. All right, and rounding off our vocabulary list, we have chilly, Chilly. And this one describes that feeling of being a little bit cold, that slight nip in the air.
Yeah.
So you might say, it's getting chilly, better grab a jacket.
Smart. Okay, so that's our 10
vocabulary words.
10 key words. And I think what's cool about these is you can really start to, like, build out, how you describe the weather.
Yes, exactly. It gives you a much wider range of expression.
Way more descriptive than just saying hot or cold.
Absolutely. Okay, so now that we've got this core vocabulary down, let's move on to some useful everyday phrases.
Right, I love it.
Because these are the kind of things you'll hear native English speakers using all the time when they're chatting about the weather.
In real life.
In real life, exactly. And using them yourself will really make your English sound so much more natural and fluent.
Awesome, I'm ready.
Okay, so first up, we have a classic, and that is, looks like it's gonna rain.
Okay.
I mean, this is just such a simple, natural way to comment on those, those gray clouds gathering.
And you see it coming.
When you see it coming, exactly. And it's something you can say to pretty much anyone. You're walking down the street, you're at work, you're with friends. It's just a really easy way to start a conversation or just, acknowledge what's going on outside.
Okay, I like it. It's practical.
Very practical, very practical. All right. Next, we have a phrase that's particularly useful when it's, well, really hot. And that is, it's boiling out there. Now, this one's a bit more informal, but you'll hear it all the time, especially in those casual, everyday conversations. And it's just a more expressive way of saying that, the temperature is really high.
It paints a picture.
It does, yeah. You really get that sense of intense heat. All right, on a more positive note, a great way to start a conversation, no matter what the weather is like, is to simply say, what a beautiful day.
Oh, I love that.
It's just so friendly and upbeat.
Yeah.
And it can instantly make you feel more connected to the person you're talking to, whether it's a stranger on the bus or a colleague at work.
Yeah, it's like that instant mood booster.
Exactly. It's just a lovely way to acknowledge, the nice weather and create a positive vibe.
Nice.
All right. Next up, we have a phrase for those moments when the weather catches you off guard. And that is, I wasn't expecting this kind of weather.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You leave the house in sunshine and suddenly it's hailing.
Yeah, or the opposite.
Or the opposite, yeah. You grab your umbrella and then it turns out to be a gorgeous day.
Totally.
So this phrase is really handy for expressing that surprise and, maybe even a little bit of amusement at how unpredictable the weather can be.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. All right, here's another one that I think we can all relate to, especially during those transitional seasons.
Oh, yeah.
When the weather just can't seem to make up its mind, and that is, the weather's been all over the place.
So true.
1 minute it's sunny, the next it's raining, then it's windy, then it's back to sunshine. It's like, what's going on?
You never know what to wear.
Exactly. So this phrase is a great way to capture that sense of, constant change and unpredictability.
I like that one.
Yeah. Okay, as we move into those cooler months, you'll probably hear, or maybe you'll want to use, the phrase, there's a chill in the air.
Okay.
And this is a really nice, evocative way to describe that first hint of cold.
Yeah, you can feel it.
You can feel it, yeah. It's often used, in early autumn or winter when the temperature starts to drop, and it really captures that kind of crispness in the air.
Yeah, change of seasons.
Exactly, yeah, that shift from warmer to colder weather. All right, now for a phrase with a bit of British flair,
Okay,
we have, it's absolutely tipping it down.
love it.
So this is a common idiom in British English, and it means it's raining very heavily.
It's pouring.
It's pouring, yeah, a proper downpour. So if you ever find yourself in the UK and the heavens open, you might hear this one being used.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, we have a phrase that expresses our, our desire for a change in the weather.
Right.
And that is, we could do with some rain.
Yeah.
And this is typically said when it's been dry for a while.
Things are getting a little crispy.
Yeah, things are getting a bit too dry. Yeah. And people, especially, those who have gardens or are involved in farming are really hoping for some rainfall.
Yeah, everybody needs a little water.
Exactly. So there you have it, a whole bunch of really practical phrases that you can start weaving into your everyday conversations about the weather.
Now let's take all of that, those words, those phrases, and kind of put it to an example conversation,
Yeah,
so people can hear how it sounds naturally.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's see how it all flows together.
Okay, so imagine two people are chatting, and person A says, hey, looks like it's going to rain.
Nice. Simple, straightforward.
Right, just like that, like starting off, noticing the sky.
Yeah.
Person B then responds, yeah, it's been overcast all morning. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a downpour.
Great. So they've taken that initial observation and really kind of built on it.
Expanded.
Expanded, yeah. Using that word overcast and even suggesting the possibility of a downpour. It just flows so naturally.
Yeah, it's like a natural back and forth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then person A says, I hope not, I forgot my umbrella again.
Right. Relatable.
So relatable.
Yeah.
And person B replies, you and me both. On the bright side, there's a bit of a breeze. At least it's not muggy like yesterday.
Okay, so now they're bringing in more like descriptive words.
Right. They're acknowledging that potential negative rain, but then they're trying to find the positive, the breeze.
Yeah.
And they're even comparing it to a less pleasant condition from the day before, the mugginess.
Exactly. Love that.
Yeah. And then to wrap it up, person A says, true, yesterday felt like walking through soup.
Oh my gosh, that's the best.
It's such a great way to describe that feeling, right?
It's so vivid.
It's so vivid, yeah.
Like you can totally imagine it.
You can totally imagine it.
Yeah.
And it adds that touch of humor, which, is always nice in a conversation. So what's really interesting here is how each person's comment kind of builds on the last, right?
It's a real conversation.
It's a real conversation.
It's not just like, one sentence and then on to something else.
Exactly. And it shows how, even something as simple as the weather can be a springboard for a really engaging and natural exchange.
Right.
So that's the power of those everyday phrases.
Absolutely. Now, something that's really important when learning a language, in addition to vocab and phrases, is pronunciation.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I think it'd be great if we just, take a few moments to practice the pronunciation of some of these key weather words.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Because, even if you understand the meaning of a word, if you don't pronounce it correctly, it can lead to, misunderstandings or just make it harder for people to understand you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we actually have the phonetic transcriptions here. And I really encourage you, our listeners, to say these words out loud along with us. Even if you're on your own, just listening, saying the words aloud really helps to solidify them in your memory.
Absolutely. It's all about that active practice.
Exactly. Okay, so first up, we have drizzle, that's drizzt.
Drizzle.
Next, we have downpour, shrez. Then we have overcast, drizzt.
That's jazz.
And finally, muggy, drizzled.
So really take a moment to say those out loud, practice them a few times, and as was mentioned in the material we looked at, recording yourself can be a really useful tool.
Super helpful.
Super helpful.
Yeah.
Because it allows you to hear how you sound and maybe identify any areas where you might want to adjust your pronunciation.
Right, so you can hear yourself from a different perspective.
Exactly. All right, so we've got the vocabulary, we've got the phrases, we've practiced the pronunciation.
Yeah.
Now, how do we actually put all of this into practice in our everyday lives?
Right. Like, how do we make it stick?
Make it stick, yeah. And, it might sound simple, but just making a conscious effort to comment on the weather in English every day
Oh, yeah.
can really make a difference to your fluency and your confidence.
It's those small things.
It really is. Even something as basic as saying, it's a bit chilly today as you're heading out the door.
Or it's a gorgeous afternoon.
It's a gorgeous afternoon. Exactly. Just little things like that said consistently can really help to solidify those words and phrases in your mind and make them feel more natural to use.
It just becomes part of your, regular vocabulary.
So exactly. You're building that habit.
Love it.
Another great tip from the material we looked at was to, try describing yesterday's weather to someone.
Okay, yeah.
Use some of those phrases we talked about, like, it was pouring in the morning, but it cleared up later.
Yeah, using the past tense.
Using the past tense, exactly. It's a really effective way to practice recalling those words and phrases and using them in a slightly different context.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. To give you all a more specific way to put all of this into practice this week, we have a little challenge for you.
I love a good challenge.
Me too. So your task this week is to describe today's weather using at least 3 of the words or phrases we've talked about in this deep dive.
Awesome. I love it.
You can jot it down in a notebook. You can say it out loud to yourself while you're having your morning coffee. Or if you're feeling really brave, you can share it with a language partner online.
Yeah, or with us.
Or with us. Yeah, we'd love to hear it. The key is to actively use this language to make it a part of your everyday life.
Exactly. Repetition is key.
It really is. All right, so that brings us to the end of our deep dive into weather vocabulary and phrases. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and some practical tools that you can start using right away.
I think this has been really helpful.
I think so too, yeah. And remember, this might seem like a simple topic,
Yeah.
but it's such a fundamental part of everyday conversation.
So fundamental.
And getting comfortable talking about the weather is a huge step towards more fluent and more confident communication in English in all sorts of situations.
Totally.
So as they say in the material we looked at, thanks for spending this time with us. And until our next deep dive, stay cool, stay dry, and keep learning.
And I just want to leave you with one final thought. Think about the last time you had a conversation about the weather, and it could be in any language. Were there any, nuances or specific feelings about the weather that you found difficult to express? And how might some of the vocabulary and phrases that we've learned today help you in those situations in the future?
I think it's so interesting to pay attention to those weather conversations happening around us and really notice the specific language that people use. You might be surprised at just how often this topic comes up and how much it contributes to those everyday connections.
Absolutely. It's all about building those connections.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.